it up. It's The Record Machine with your host, Jimmy Howell.
Born with an accordion, I was the chosen son. I made my bones with a barking dog in a broken home in Philadelphia. I carve those wrinkles on my mother's face anytime I dare step on a stage. All because I had the balls to play an accordion. My daddy was an immigrant. They sent him off to war. Now he's a citizen. But all of that to me was just a mystery. I never found my branch on the family tree. I carved those wrinkles on my mama's face as I sailed the world in a paper plane. All because I had the balls to play an accordion. So I landed in a Paris bar. I met a drummer girl who had the wherewithal to paint her masterpiece and write a symphony. And she was kind enough to write a part for me. And now my mama's in her evening gown, as if she's one of us, queen of the underground. Prouder than a mom could ever say. How could she resist a boy who came born with a
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome singer-songwriter Michael Caruso to the program.
Good morning, Jimmy.
How you doing, Michael?
I'm blessed. How are you? I'm a little slow this morning, so forgive me. I thought I'd be up really early this morning, but I actually slept in.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm good. I'm great. How are you, sir? It's a little. You're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in Myrtle Beach.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're gonna shag.
I haven't shagged yet. There's a place though. It's down on Main Street. It's actually a couple places. But I haven't checked it out yet. I don't know.
There's some good music that came out of that area when I was growing up. I think. I mean, not that we've been through there. I just remember some good music. That's all I recall. And shagging a little bit when I was younger in that area.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful
we may try it out. Me and my wife might check it out one night.
Very cool.
Yeah, I've only been here 4 years, so I grew up in New Jersey.
That's a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Is this your home?
Yeah, this is our permanent home.
Well, you could have done worse, son. That's a beautiful area. God bless. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you a Jersey boy?
Yeah, that's where I grew up. I lived there for my whole life. Up until
Whereabouts in Jersey? I mean, I'm from Philly.
We grew up in Bergen County, which is like around by the Hackensack area, Fort Lee area, near New York City.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like kind of closer to New York. I had a couple friends in Fort Lee.
Yeah, and then later in life, I moved to central New Jersey, so I was living down in Bridgewater, Raritan area.
I'm not familiar as much with that area. Is that near Great Gorge by any chance?
I don't think so. I thought that was in Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
Oh.
I thought that was like in Vernon Valley, Pennsylvania, I thought.
Could be. I believe there was a Playboy Club there back in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a whole story. And, we have to be careful because 30 minutes will go by in a blink. But I was just like, wow, he's in Myrtle Beach. That's awesome. Yeah. That's a beautiful area. So
where are you from?
I'm from Philadelphia.
Oh, you grew up there your whole life, huh?
Well, no. I was born in Philadelphia.
Okay.
I feel like, I was raised, throughout much of the United States, Texas, and primarily the West Coast. It's where I sort of grew up. You know what I mean? Like it all happened, like those formative years certainly happened in Philly, and I drank the water. Mm-hmm. So that's my excuse. Okay, so let me just be clear about that.
Okay.
But I got out of there like 16 to just I turned 17, and I bailed. And between that time and everything that happened, mm-hmm. It doesn't really feel like I grew up, in Philadelphia. Okay. Although, as I said, whatever was going on in that water definitely is inside me. And it's unique. It's like, oh, you're from Philly? Yeah. Yeah, what is it? It's an attitude, dude. You got a bad attitude. I'm not something. I don't know. It's a little defensive. I can't put my finger on it. It just seems like Philly. Uh-huh. I don't want to say it. I'm afraid you might go off on me. So can I just dance around it? And I get it. It's okay. I've been do enough analysis and therapy that I understand it's cool. I get it. Uh-huh. But I do feel like I grew up, primarily, in the Midwest, Texas, and largely the West Coast. And so much has happened out here. You know what I mean? This is where you grew up, man. This is where you became a man. When she tore your heart out, made a man out of you, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. and the babies and the marriages, and the car payments and the divorces and all of that stuff.
Wow.
That, you know what I mean? It's just like, that didn't happen when I was 12. There were some other beautiful things happening, and that was in Philly with the water that I keep mentioning. But and it was great, you know. And, you know, I didn't know that, you know, what music was sort of. I mean, I guess I did. But what I'm referring to is sort of the music that was infiltrating, you know, my brain and my system, and the influences that I would carry throughout the rest of my life, you know, whether, you know, I mean, it was stuff even before my time that, you know, I heard my mom primarily playing, because she was first generation, but my father was from the other side. He was from Italy, so there was a whole lot of heavy European influence. You know, my mom was French Italian, and my dad was Italian, so it was thick. You know, their parents were alive, and we were over there a lot. We were there every Sunday, and I don't know. I heard a lot of, you know, it was pretty expansive. It rolled from like Mantovani to, you know, Hank Williams. It really did. I remember hearing pretty orchestrated stuff that was like, that's pretty beautiful. What is that? You know, and then hearing Hank Williams and another guy, it was Ray Milton. This is like sort of before my time, but I would hear this stuff and it was like, wow, that's Louis Jordan, Louis Prima. You know, these sorts of things got in, you know, before Cash and Elvis, you know, the Everlys and things like that. These seeds were planted. So I'm trying to give it to you, but I hope I'm articulating well enough. I don't know that I feel like I am, because it seems so vast looking back upon it. But I just remember those Hank Williams songs and Richie Valens. I remember Donna and the Everly Sound, and you know, Cash kind of scared me, but I kind of liked him. And of course, there was just no arguing with Elvis. It's like, what are you going to do with that? And I don't know. The British invasion happened, and then the hammer fell, and the floodgates opened, and then it all either just completely ended, or perhaps it all began, depending on your perspective.
Right.
Yeah, and there was all that. But so it's kind of a short run, but a long story. Doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It's like it went by in the blink of an eye, but it feels like 100 years. But I guess I don't know. Even that can be a short period of time. But as much as some of it's a little bit hazy, I seem to recall a whole lot of it. Yeah. You know, and that I don't. I don't know. Rearrange them in my mind, and somehow I'm able to incorporate it into the songwriting, because, you know, explaining songwriting is a pretty difficult thing. Right. You know, I mean, if I did have the formula to give you or anyone on how to write a hit song, I'm not sure really I would. You know, because, you know, as it stands, I think anyone might be able to do it. As it is, you know, anyone might be able to do it, because there's not necessarily a formula. Everybody, you know, has their way. But all I was saying, I'm not actually off point. Just take the long way around a lot. And I don't want to do that because our half hour will go by. But I find that, a song could be like, I don't know, the way you put a glass of milk down or, a drink down. And, it could be a lot of misrecollections of something from the past. And I'm saying that because I feel like I remember most of what feels like this 100-year run, but at the same time, sometimes when things are hazy, like when I'll do a song, I'll think I'm writing about a particular thing, and then when it's finished, you'll hear it a month later, it's just like, wow, wow, that's not what it is at all. And it becomes this other thing, and then I'll play it for you, and then you'll have your take on it, which is always better than mine. I mean, there's never really a time. I have great trouble talking about, what's this particular song about? It's like, well, I can tell you what I thought it was about, when I wrote it. What it's about today might be different. But I honestly, I really kind of learned this over time. It didn't happen like, in a week or a month or a year. It happened over a chunk of time. It's like, every time you talk about what the song is, the person you're talking to says, really? Because I thought it was about this. And their take was always so much better, more beautiful, deeper. It just got more brilliance to it. Then it's like, and as I got older, I just would be a little bit more quiet about it and try to get them to get their take. I'm giving my trade secrets away here because their take was just it was just a broader scope for me, and I always dug it, and I just thought it was more beautiful than what I was playing around with, But I still loved what I did because I did what I did, and that took that particular, there's an academia that comes to it. It's not all inspiration, and I mean, look, it's certainly inspiration, but once you have that inspiration, which that is, like it's been said, I'm not the first guy to say it, that comes, you're the channel, you're the vessel, and it's all around us right now. It's all around you, Jimmy, as you're sitting there, standing there, talking to me. It's all around me now. There could be a song that comes out of this conversation, but, we just have to be open enough to receive it. And you get that inspiration, you grab it, and that doesn't even feel like necessarily my work. The songwriter's work, for me, always felt like the going after that inspiration. You get that magical thing or that higher power thing, whatever that plane is, that you receive that. If you get that signal, you got that. Now you got to go after it. Now your work begins because you got to start whittling and honing and polishing and really going after it. And, I'm not a quick songwriter. You have a lot of ideas. Right. And that's fine. But, to go after them is another job completely, I mostly in my life had the luxury of just being able to show up. Because I didn't really have a plan B. It was like, I knew what I wanted to do at 4. It was very clear what I wanted to do. And so that's what I did. You knew? Not to say that I haven't, washed tables or been a waiter. I've had stints like that when I lived in Manhattan. I went to school there for a little while, and there was that, but I knew where there wasn't like a question. It was pretty clear, and I think because of that, I always had the luxury of showing up when I was not necessarily inspired. Because I knew that for me was going to be required. That sort of work ethic was going to be required for me to show up. Because if I showed up, I could show up for 2 weeks straight and just, maybe have a few ideas, maybe have a lot of ideas, and they could be all dogs, nothing against dogs, but just not necessarily great ideas, and then I came to understand if you just keep showing up, the muse will as well. And that's sort of the way it went for a good part of my career. And, I was fortunate enough to be in situations where, I was being looked after and I was able to do that. And that's what I wanted to do. So it didn't matter that I wasn't sitting completely on top of the world. I was, because I was doing what I loved and I was being looked after. So isn't that success? I mean, felt that way to me. Doing what you love, being paid for it. Right. Being able to put bread on the table. It's like, but there was a whole formula, it wasn't like, you just get to, write songs and it's, it sounds, for me, I mean, maybe for some guys it is. I've seen guys that are just brilliant at writing quickly. They're like amazing. They're amazing. I don't know how they do it. But, I have to calm down the committee in my mind and, it's like a supermarket or DMV in there. Gotta quiet those voices and, get down to what that inspired idea you had, which was damn good. So you got to go after that, and you want to try to clear the path as best you can. And you have to allow that kind of time. I think all I'm saying is I have a lot of gratitude because I was afforded that time, and still largely am to a degree. Life changes as we move forward in our journey and things, and there's kids, and the kids are bigger than you, and then you're a great grandfather. It's like, what? Really? How could she have a kid? What? And that just becomes this, okay, you okay? Yeah, I'm great. I'm doing great. You don't sound great. No, I'm good. It's just still surreal. And it got that way, I don't know, 30 years ago. 30? Well, up 20, for sure. Still surreal? Still surreal. So, so I'm always acclimating. I'm always acclimating because I've never been this age before. You know what I'm saying? It's just all brand new. Wow. Well, what is it? I don't know. I still feel 35, and I'm trying to act 30 or 35. I'm trying. It's like, well, you're not, dude. You're 100. You're a century old. And this is all brand new, and me kind of making that all sort of work cohesively, socially, in my work as a writer alone, in my collaborative efforts, and, threading that needle, if you will. So, I don't know. I know what I'm saying. Am I making any sense to you, Jimmy?
Yeah, total sense. I'm just taking it all in.
Awesome. I feel like I could just eat up this next 20 minutes, which I really don't want to do. On the other hand, it's like I think I might just be talking because I don't think this is true, actually. I don't know why. You give great voice. That I could tell that right away. And I was jokingly going to say, I could just keep rattling on because I'm fearful of your questions. But and that might be true easily in any given situation. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, your voice this morning, I'm not. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, it's not really necessarily questions, more or less me asking you to talk about, some of the things that you've done throughout your career. Like, for instance, tell me about your background in music. When did you start? How did you get that big break?
It's always with a piano that the next door neighbor has. Have you not heard that before? I certainly have. Mm-hmm. And it became kind of like, really? The piano? That's how I started. Aunt Jewel, who was not my aunt. I don't know who these folks were, but they were Aunt Jewel and Uncle Joe. Mm-hmm. And they lived next door to us in Philadelphia in Pennypack Park, which I'm thinking, like, isn't that your strawberry fields, Michael? Pennypack Park. You might want to really consider that because there's something lyrical in there. Pennypack Park. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was that Billy Joe Royal song? Cherry Hill Park.
Yes.
Cherry Hill Park.
That was a great song.
Pennypack Park. I mean, I can't top Strawberry Fields, and it's not because it was those amazing guys that did it. It just, I think Fields brings it. I like that word better than Park. But there's something really, I don't know. It's got a magic. There's an elusiveness to it, and a childlike quality to Pennypack. So Pennypack Fields, it's Pennypack Park, dude. That's what it was. So if you're going to do it, try to make that work. Mm-hmm. So, so you could go after that for a while. And if it's not really working, you have to kind of let it go. Because if it's worth anything or it's going to work for you as an artist, you gotta let an idea like that go, even though it's cool. You got to release it so that it might decide on its own that I'm cool enough for it to come back around and say, hey, here you go. Check this out. I got an angle on Pennypack Park. So not only does the idea need to be cool, you need to be cool enough for the idea. That's what I'm saying. Right. It's like, you got to know when to really kind of bear down, and bearing down is a big part of this thing. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of, there's blood on the floor. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. And, for me personally, as I said, like this, it doesn't, necessarily come easy. I have to keep going after it because, that academic part is, when you're going after it, I'm just trying to feel good intellectually, or like, it's got to break through my own, the committee, if you will, in my mind, and all those voices that are telling me all this and that. It's got to break through that. It's got to break through my own what may feel like boredom in my head with particular genres of music or what might be going on. It's got to break through so much to get my attention so that when I'm writing it, you actually feel like you're, working out at a gym physically. It's, you kind of feel it physically, but it feels more cerebral. That you're kind of in shape when you get away from it and you walk around, and maybe you walk a little taller because you're feeling kind of connected to this particular creative idea that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to other people, but like you got a line on this thing, and you're excited about it, and you don't care really about what other people think about it. It's not about what their consideration is. It's just about you following this thread through in a truthful, authentic way. Uh-huh. But anyway, it started with a piano. This woman and her husband had a piano, and I would jump the white fence, and it wasn't picket. It was old school 3, white painted chunky
slats, right? I remember those fences.
Yes, exactly. It was not a picket fence. And we just jump over, and there's third of an acre, a little less than a half an acre. Everybody had it.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of like foresty, woodsy. We were in the woods, which is kind of magical. And I, have to imagine that I just had to have something to do with something. And I haven't really gotten to the bottom of that, so I don't want to get too lost in that. But it was a magical place to be a child at that time, and we weren't very far from Center City, Philadelphia, which was another film completely, if you will, another movie completely. But my dad built his own house, him and his brothers. I think they built it for $10,000. It was great, and built it in woods, and this is pretty awesome. And I would run over to Uncle Joe's and Aunt Jules over the fence and get in. And I believe, this is where I heard those records. I heard, was it Ray Milton? I'm thinking of Ray Milton.
Mm-hmm.
Best Wishes. I think that was the name of the song, Best Wishes. I might be confusing his name, but I think it was Ray Milton and Louis Jordan and Louis Prima. And I would hear the stuff and Sinatra and Mantovani. And then they had kids, and then there were the Everlys, and it was a 45 record player, with that cylinder.
Yep.
And the record player was right there, and there were all these 45s there. I don't remember the 33 long plays yet. Excuse me. I'm sure they were to come, but if they weren't there. But it was just this little player next to the piano, and I would play these records, these Ritchie Valens records, and some Hank Williams singles, and I would play them, and I would try to play along with the piano to the record, which I don't remember doing very well, but it didn't matter. I just felt very expressive, throwing my elbows into the keyboard. Wow. It was pretty raunchy. It was pretty primal at best, but this is where I felt like something was connecting. There's a whole story before that, but that's going to take a long time, because, there was, I just was like, that's it. I'm doing this because there's some other things that happened in the family that, actually, I'm not sure that's exactly all the truth. I feel like that's maybe a fifth of the truth. The fact of the matter was, I loved music. I just loved it, and it just seemed to be the way. And from there, I actually moved to guitar, but I played left-handed.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, I played left-handed. And Mr. Butterworth said, well, that's not going to happen here. And the nuns, I came up parochial, which is a whole, another opera within itself. So the nuns were like, that's the devil's child, and they would tie your left hand, behind the desk and that sort of thing. It was rather archaic and certainly strange. But the nuns didn't like it. Mr. Butterworth didn't like it. And they said, you got to play right-handed. And that was just upside down for me. I couldn't quite grab that. And I tried to roll with it for a few months, but I didn't feel it. So from there, I discovered my cousins in New Jersey, in Palmyra, Cherry Hill, and they were all playing accordion. And I said, well, what the hell is that thing? How do they know what all those buttons are on that left-hand side? It's like, well, I don't know, but there's a piano on the other side. I could roll with that, and maybe we could figure it out. Seems like you just need to be strong to pull those bellows in and out. Maybe I can find my way. So the guitar was, I didn't even understand how necessarily difficult the guitar was to play. It was just like, you mean my index finger has to go over the fret? That's like a capo you're talking about. And the other fingers form the chord? Wow. You got to be like the Claw to do that. It's like, wow. And I don't really remember a really close relationship with guitar, which I play a lot of now. And, you know, honest to God, Jimmy, I do not know when the track switched that I was able to find my way right-handed. So I honestly can't speak exactly to that, other than there was probably an idea that I had, and there wasn't an accordion or some sort of other musical instrument in the room, a piano or a keyboard of some sort, that I could hack out the idea on. And there was a guitar, and it was a right-handed guitar. I mean, this would probably be it, because, you know, I was always writing, always trying to write, you know, trying to write little plays for school and poetry, and just always wanted to write, you know, and wanted to write. And then it was just like, well, dude, you know, like, why don't you just move from this poetry into some lyrics, and, you know, maybe get with a bona fide guitar player, and you could bring your accordion. And, you know, as I learned the left hand, it's like, you know, it's kind of sort of cheesy, but it almost sounds like an organ. If you just play that left hand and you hit the right notes, it's like accordion-esque. You know, or it was at the time with these particular guitar players that I was playing with in the 5th and 6th and 7th grade, you know. And then I don't know, before we knew it, it was a combo, you know, and we were playing weddings and confirmations and brisses and just all these sort of family functions, and the pay was good, Jimmy. And I was singing, and we came across this wonderful guitar player at the time. He was like an 8th grader. He's a little older, you know, maybe he was a freshman in high school, and he really was able to hold it down. So, you know, I would do some of the standard stuff on the accordion, and then I was able to kind of put it down, and he just filled the room with his chordal, you know, brilliance. And I was able to do the frontman thing, and I was able to do my singing thing, and I enjoyed that a lot. And honest to God, the money was fantastic. I was 12, 13, 14 years old. We were getting, you know, a $50 bill at the end of a wedding on a weekly basis.
Yeah, that's a lot back then.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And I really, you know, cool parents. They weren't like, you know, oh, you got to do this or that with it. And, you know, I was able to, you know, try to save and buy a microphone and do what I wanted to do with the money. And they were great about that. And there were some perks that I certainly didn't mind. The people seemed to like, you know, the performer and the guy, you know, the host of the show. And I guess I liked that part too, you know, that satisfied some part of my ego at that time. And I thought, well, this is a lucrative gig. I mean, this is a lucrative business. I need to study, and I need to really get this down and go after this, because, you know, this is it. This is what I thought I wanted to do when I was 4 years old, when I was over Aunt Jules banging on the piano. Here it is. Right. So there I was with a group, and it was a little combo, bro. We were kids, you know, and gosh, one thing led to another. Right. Met another group of guys, and then we started playing the clubs. And, you know, we weren't making as much money playing those clubs, although it was okay. But this was like more of a professional band, and then we actually got hired by Hugh Hefner, and we did. If we missed one, maybe we missed one, but I remember doing Miami twice, the Playboy Club down there, and we did the Playboy Club in Los Angeles and in Chicago primarily. We had like a 2-month residence there in the lounge, which was amazing. We got to meet like some of the Beach Boys would come in and they would have dinner. We were sort of the lounge band, but at that time we were writing our own stuff and we were moving toward like, hey, we need to be an original band. Wow. And they wanted us to wear these particular polyester suits and whatnot. I was like, no, we don't want to do that. We were going through that Fleetwood Mac thing, and we would like come out in that rig, and that was our deal. And the Bunnies seemed to take to us, and we certainly took to them. And we would come out, and we would play sort of the hits of the day, but then there would be this 45-minute. I think it was our third set. We'd do like 5 sets a night, and in the middle of that set, we would do like an original set, which was like sort of unheard of because we're just supposed to be the background music for the people, eating. And like, when later at night, like at 11 after they were through eating, of course, people were drinking and they wanted to dance. And then, we had to do that stuff. They wanted Barry White. They wanted, KC and the Sunshine Company. And at best, we were playing La de Messina, Your Mama Don't Dance, Daddy Don't Rock and Roll. But we seemed to pull it off, and we kept getting booked, and it was a really great period of time for that particular band. And, we had a couple of record deals. It's a really long story. I feel like we should maybe stop here. And, can I talk about my single that's out right now? Or is that...
You could talk about whatever you want. Whatever you want to talk about. I mean, I wrote down a bunch of stuff. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is you worked for Homegrown Music, Geffen Music, Sony Music, Chrysalis Music. What was that experience like?
They were great. I mean, they were great. This was extraordinarily formative because, coming up, I'm writing songs at dude, when I say I'm writing songs at 8, 9, and 10 years old, doesn't mean these songs were any good. You understand? But there was I'm going to write. And so I'm writing and, we were doing, the weddings and the confirmations and, all those things, and you're writing and you're trying to do an original here and there. So, you're just constantly growing and, then you're doing the clubs and now you're doing an original set. And, sometimes that didn't work either, and I'm not sure that didn't work at a lot of times because the people didn't like it or because the club owner just wanted the people to be dancing and sweating and keep drinking. And you know what I mean? Our stuff wasn't necessarily just that. So, we were taking them down another particular alley or highway, if you will, and he didn't want that. I don't know that it was necessarily because the stuff was just no good. And again, I'm sure that there were some of that stuff was no good, but we were definitely better. And so by the time, I had arrived on the West Coast, we were with the band. We were signed to RCA Records in Los Angeles. We did a record there. The single came out in London. The album was not released here. And then they sent us on a tour. Honestly, we ran from Anchorage, Alaska to San Diego, just playing a lot of our own material, but we really didn't have the support of the record company. And there's another story behind that with the management and stuff that was going on, in the 70s with, it was just toxic money flying around. And, it's like, look, we'll just give the band living money, give them a car, give them a nice place to live. They can think that they're living the dream, and we'll just keep them working on the road. And we actually thought that for a while. And I was like, well, wait a minute, we're because we saw other bands that were kind of doing it right, and we put it together. And there were lawyers and all that, but it was an experience for sure. And from there, there was a deal in San Francisco we signed with Fantasy Records. I think it was like a 2-deal single. And then the RCA album, which did not get released, but the single got released in England. And that fell apart. There were some indie labels that I'm not even going to mention after the fact in the 80s that really didn't pan out either. But during that time, it was just like, I just kept writing. I kept writing alone. I kept collaborating and meeting people. And it was like, dude, you can make a life at this writing thing. Well, whatever it is you might be trying else to do, you could do this. So, I was fortunate enough to get hooked up with Homegrown Music, who, ironically enough, do you know who Homegrown is?
I've heard of it.
Homegrown are the people that got Billy Joel, to my understanding, when Billy Joel was not Billy Joel.
Oh, okay.
But they knew. It was 2 guys, and they knew. They said, dude, you got to clean up. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you that. And we're going to take this for this long.
Wow.
It was quite a deal. And it was a long deal. And they made the right bet, that's for sure. And I don't think Billy took too kindly to it. I always say there's 3 sides to all these stories. In fact, I think there's more, after, my experience in this business. Mm-hmm. But it's like, Billy, you weren't doing well. You were dying. These guys picked you up out of the street, and I know the deal was kind of tough, but look what happened. And it was said to me, because these guys put me in, it was, honestly, it was I don't know what you would call it. I want to call it a garage, but it wasn't. It was some sort of a guest house, but there was no flooring in the living room. It was the grass. I used to have to mow my living room.
Maybe it was a sunroom?
Well, it had a bathroom that looked like something out of Caligula. It was very bizarre. It was a house and that was adjoined to a studio and then another couple of buildings. But it was its own sort of guest house is the best way, or an apartment. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. But there was just no floor in the living room. It was grass. And it remained grass. I mean, I threw throw rugs, but still had to cut the grass every now and then. I was signed there for almost 4 years. And I just lived in there. I got into real estate, I think, in my 3rd year. There was another buddy of mine who came out from Kentucky, a great writer. And I thought, I'm living with this chick in Hollywood. She's up in the hills. I'm living there. Mm-hmm. I got this writing gig. Why don't I rent it out to him for, just dirt cheap? I could pick up a few bucks in my pocket. And I went into real estate there. Wow. And the guys found out about it. They brought me in. I got away with it for about 7 months. They brought me in and they said, so when did you decide to go into real estate, dude? And the way they threw it over, I didn't understand. They said, dude, we know that you're taking like that $30 a month from the guy. Mm-hmm. We're charging you for that. Mm-hmm. The studio, the car, your advance, we're still charging you for that. So it's all very nice that you're doing this, and he seems to be a nice kid, but this is not necessarily what we had in mind, and you need to give the kid, his walking papers, because it's not okay with us. So you kind of had to be there. I thought I was getting away with something, but I learned,
Well, that's going to do it for part 1 of this podcast. Stay tuned for part 2. In the meantime, check out this great tune.
Yeah, I dragged myself down to St. Victor's with my rosary crushed in my hand, and I fell to my knees like a beggar in need. So much I could not understand. Oh, that little girl's heart that I'd broken stood there helplessly drowning in tears. And she started to speak, and her voice sounded weak, but it rang like cathedral bells in my ears. That was my mistake. I spoke too soon. There was a man of the cloth standing in the vestibule. He said, say 1,000 Hail Marys, but there ain't no cure for you. He said, Solomon couldn't tell you with his wisdom or his gold. Solomon couldn't tell you now, 'cause your heart already knows. Yeah. One lover stood under my window while another one haunted my dreams. I didn't mean to lie, but my heart had no eyes. Now this wreckage is all I can see. That was my mistake. I spoke too soon. If I could take back those words and maybe change what I've done. That voice in my head keeps telling me there's nowhere you can run. They're singing, Solomon couldn't tell you with his wisdom or his gold. Solomon couldn't tell you now, 'cause your heart already knows. I could never make it right, 'cause what's done is done. I have made my bed, judgment day has come. I've walked these streets from the Bowery to the Mission. I've cried to every freak, every saint, apparition. Solomon couldn't tell you with his wisdom or his gold. Solomon couldn't tell you now, 'cause your heart already knows. Solomon couldn't tell you with his wisdom or his gold. Solomon couldn't tell you now, 'cause your heart already knows. Yeah, your heart already knows. Your heart already knows.